All right, so I've wanted to do a video about deburring and my decision to not prime for a while now, so the time has finally come. So we'll start with deburring. This is a part just how it comes out of the wrapper from the factory. They're processed in a stamp process where it kind of punches all the holes, cuts out the part all in one swoop. So it makes a really nice part. I have not deburred this at all, so you can see these are the burrs that people are talking about when they want to deburr a part. So really you just kind of go around and feel for it with your finger. It's hard to see. This one's probably about as big as the burrs get on these parts. So this one you can see visually, but you just kind of go around and feel it out with your finger. One side's always going to be really smooth because of the way the stamp process works, where it just kind of comes through and it punches everything. It's got the pins, it cuts it all out in one motion. And on the back there's a die, so the pin punches through and the die is there. So it does make a nice smooth hole on one side, and then there's a slight burr on the other side because of the way the process works. But it's really clean. It's really clean. I think that the necessity to deburr used to be because of, archaic machining processes. So this one's really ugly. I just cut it out real quick out of some scrap with tin snips and drilled this through with my drill. And you see how much bigger the burr is here. And obviously the tin snips leave a really ugly edge. So the way things used to work, I think that those burrs could get over the mating surfaces and, create a stress point. But modern manufacturing techniques, I think, reduce the necessity for deburring. I think that you could get away with unwrapping all the parts and just slapping them together as they come, and you'd have a perfectly safe, perfectly functional airplane with no issues. Some of the external stuff, if you don't deburr it, maybe you could make like an ugly paint edge or something, but it would still be a functional plane. One thing that is for sure though, I wanted to do this video with a rib, but I actually don't have any. They're all on the plane now. Got no ribs left. But anyway, if you don't deburr the rib properly, when you go to wrap the skins over it, it definitely does make a difference on, it kind of makes a little hang up point when you're trying to smoothly put the skins over the ribs. But anyway, I'm not the guy who's going to find out if it's safe to fly a plane that wasn't deburred. So that being said, this is my deburring arsenal. This is all I use to deburr the whole plane. The majority of it happens with a 6-inch scale. So they're made out of steel, so harder material than the aluminum. And all you do is go along the edge at a 45-degree angle, like this, on that side, and you flip it and do it on that side. I learned this trick in college, and maybe it's just because of habit and this is what I got used to doing, but I really like doing this over using like a deburring tool or anything. Especially because when you take out a long rib or something, you just put it on the table and just go zip along the whole outside edge, and takes the burr off in one pass. For really big burrs, sometimes 2 passes, but that's it. For the holes, I use an oversized drill bit. You do want the bit to be considerably larger than the hole, but everybody's got drill bits, and so that's an easy one. I don't use anything super, fancy or expensive. This does the job perfectly. You just put it in the hole and give it a little twist, maybe a half twist, and it takes the whole burr off, no problem. Really quick and easy. And then I have this one. This is basically for holes. So this is for the inside of holes that have a larger diameter than this. So maybe the lightning holes or anything, like these guys. So these holes, You don't have to deburr these holes, right? Unless there's a wire going through it. This wire is not actually going through it. It comes out here. It's just there for keeping it out of the way when I'm walking past it and stuff. These holes don't need to be deburred. You can go ahead and do it if you want. It makes it so you won't get cut if you have to reach through it for any reason. But unless there's like a considerable notch, which wouldn't be a burr, that'd be a manufacturing defect, a small burr on a hole that's just there to make the part a little lighter will not make a difference. So if it saves you some time, go for it. I've been deburring it, for the most part, but not really paying a whole lot of attention to it because, like I said, it's not important. It's not critical. Will not make a difference to the functionality of the plane if a lightning hole is not deburred. So anyway, yeah, so you just basically take out the part, feel for the burrs, especially mating surfaces, to make everything line up and fit together easier. But I see a lot of people asking about it and maybe, kind of curious about it and stressing out about how much to deburr or how little. Chances are you're probably deburring too much. You can take off too much material, and that's probably worse than leaving this tiny little manufacturing edge there. That being said, you definitely want to try to go through, make the part clean, but don't put, too much thought or stress into it. It's a fairly easy, straightforward part. So yeah, that's what I would recommend. I use an oversized drill bit. I use this guy for the inside holes. It was like $12 on Amazon, and it came with like 10 of these extra heads. And if you don't already have a 6-inch scale, you should probably have one anyway, because this guy's awesome for helping you, measure in place and doing all that stuff. And it's not a long ruler to get in the way. So yeah, give this a try. It works really well for me. I love this, and this is what I deburr every single part with. So the other thing I wanted to talk about was the decision to not prime my plane. There's a lot of debate online about prime versus not prime and everything. Most of it's on the Vans aircraft forums, but I see it bleed into the small Sling community that's building quickly. And so the basis for my decision is entirely on, well, first of all, Cessnas are still out there flying with no corrosion because of Corrosion X and other treatments. But anyway, the decision is based entirely on the material. Vans and Cessnas, and I think Pipers as well, are made out of 2024 aluminum, and this is 6061. The difference is that 6061 is much more pure aluminum. It's about 98% pure. The biggest alloying element is magnesium, and it's less than 1% of the total alloy. 2024 is like 93 or 4% pure aluminum, and the biggest alloying element in that is copper, and it's about 3% of the alloy. So we all know what copper does when you leave it out in the elements. Think about the Statue of Liberty or any other copper stuff that you see with that green patina on the outside. So that's why Vans puts a layer of alclad on the outside of their parts, makes them that shiny silver. That shiny silver is a layer of pure aluminum, because aluminum that's 100% pure is very, very, very good as far as corrosion resistance goes. It forms like an oxide layer on the outside as soon as it's exposed to oxygen that protects the base material. I'm not really an expert on this stuff, but that's my understanding of it. So 6061, because it's so pure, is vastly superior as far as corrosion resistance properties go. So essentially, to save a whole bunch of extra effort and time, setting up a paint booth to, spray the 2-part epoxy primer, preparing the parts for priming, letting them dry, trying to create an environment, that's clean and safe to work in with the chemicals, it's all just a whole lot of, in my opinion, unnecessary steps. I did prime the empennage with the rattle can kind of self-etching primer from Home Depot. I did that because I got that kit much earlier than the rest of the kit came in, so I was just trying to make it take as long as possible. That rattle can stuff I wouldn't really recommend. It scratches off really easily, and I just think it's more trouble than it's worth. If you are going to prime the plane, really the only way to go is, in my opinion, would be the 2-part epoxy primer. But this video is about my decision to not prime. So anyway, the pureness of the 6061 is essentially the difference maker. 6061 is used in boats, ocean kind of structures, just in its pure form, because it is so resistant to corrosion. Sometimes boats are made out of like 5052 or whatever that is, because of its weldability. But the corrosion resistance of 6061 is good enough for ocean applications, so that should say something. So not only that, but there is the option for applying Corrosion X and some sort of, post-treatment to inhibit corrosion. So basically, after the plane is painted and dried and, fully finished, I can, before final assembly, spray Corrosion X in through the ribs of the wings, into the bottom of the fuselage, and coat everything for corrosion protection. So because of all of these reasons, kind of added up, in my opinion, to not need any kind of corrosion protection on the insides, I'd be willing to bet the farm that I could sit this thing, and I'm here in San Diego, outside on the ramp, and it's going to be just as good against corrosion in the long run as any of them that are primed. Maybe not sitting in the bottom of the ocean, I don't know. So I guess the reason that most aircrafts aren't built out of 6061 is the strength to weight ratio. Their 6061 and 2024 are similar densities, but 2024 does have superior strength properties. It's about 20 or 30% stronger in both tensile and shear strength. So it does make it a better material for building an aircraft, because you want the lightest weight for the maximum strength. However, this plane was already designed with this material, and that's kind of not my scope in this project. So I do trust that the designer had everything, properly designed to be strong enough. There's, hundreds of slings out there in the world flying, and, 10s or 20s or however many TSIs are out there. Either way, it's a proven design. So I'm not concerned about the strength, but I do appreciate the added benefit of the natural corrosion resistance of the material it's built out of. So I think that's pretty much everything that I wanted to say about my decision to not prime. So hopefully that's informative to some people, and like I said, I'd be willing to bet the farm that this plane holds up to corrosion just as well as any of them that were primed. So I guess that's kind of the beauty of the experimental world. In time, we'll find out. So anyway, hope that was helpful to somebody.